Good morning, everybody. I am so thrilled to be not just to make a good announcement, but to be joined by great members of the DDCR team and the C&D team, the two groups that do so much to make sure that we can make good on the incredible track record of minority, women-owned, and generally diversity contracting. And we're here to celebrate that, as well as to welcome our new team member and leader, Chief Diversity Officer Lourdes Zapata. I'm joined by folks from different parts of this enterprise. Tracy Mitchell, who has been the interim head of DDCR for quite some time, as well as the incoming head, Chief Diversity Officer Lourdes Zapata, but also Everett Perry, the president of Urban Spaces, and Renee Sachs, Sachs Communications, a name that we've all heard a fair amount, and also two members of our front office team who actually led the search and are so essential to everything we do in this space. Lizette Camillo, the Chief Administrative Officer, and Shanifa Riera, who has more titles than I can get out in a short time. But among them is Senior Advisor and the Acting Chief Customer Officer. Shanifa, thank you for doing so much and for stepping up in so many different ways. Listen, Lourdes is taking over what is already the best in-state, and I would say arguably best in nation, Diversity and Inclusion Department, taking over from Michael Garner, a shy man who departed a couple months ago, for some more work with our great friend, Mayor Eric Adams, but also from Tracy Mitchell, who, after a long stint helping the MTA in so many ways, and in her role as a senior diversity inclusion official for the state of New York, stepped up to run this department since Michael's departure at the beginning of the year. So Tracy, thank you for what you did. I want a round of applause for Tracy for doing that. We are so excited to have identified, I won't say found, Lourdes is not a secret in the state of New York, in the city of New York. We're so glad that we have Lourdes joining us to step into the role on a permanent basis. She is a proud Bronx native who previously served as the Chief Diversity Officer under the previous gubernatorial administration. More recently, Lourdes worked in the nonprofit sphere as the first Latina president and CEO of SOBRO, the South Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, one of the name brands in economic development. She really has been a standout, managing through the challenging period of the pandemic, but so much more. With her incredible wealth of experience, Lourdes is a natural fit to lead the MTA's contracting, diversity, and other equity initiatives. For many years, the MTA, and I must say it again and again, has been tops among New York State agencies, delivering on average over $1 billion annually to minority and women-owned businesses, as well as federally certified DBEs. Last year, the total number was $1.4 billion, and we represent a third of the entire state of New York government investment in minority and women-owned and service-disabled veteran businesses. Thank you. You're giving yourselves a round of applause. This is accomplished because we've had a great team on this issue for quite some time. And I am confident that with Lourdes at the helm, the MTA is going to remain an industry leader in inclusion and in diversity contracting as we move forward with our historic $55 billion capital program, which includes investments in not just state of good repair. I always say to people, we got a 100-year-old system. It wants to fall down, and if you know anything about business, you know that you have to invest in assets as they depreciate, as they age, and as they need to be updated. But we're also investing in accessibility, our historic commitment to make all of the MTA subway system fully accessible. The bus system is fully accessible, but it's time to go beyond what the Justice Department allowed the MTA to do when the ADA was enacted, which was just to do only 100 top stations. And now we're determined, with our partners in the disability community, to get accomplished full accessibility. Jamie Torres-Sprenger and the C&D team is getting these jobs done all over. We're going to have another dozen before the end of the year that are opening. We're also investing in transit equity. Every dollar that we invest in our mass transit system is a victory for equity, for people who are dependent on the mass transit system to get to jobs and education and health care, and who don't own an automobile, or who don't want to spring for a $50 Uber, or who don't work for a company or in a job that allows them to sit at home in a custom-designed Aeron chair, dialing it in. Those are the people that we owe a great mass transit system to, and Lourdes is going to lead our commitment to that in all of our work, as well as executing on our diversity contracting. So we have today to talk about a little more about that some business owners who have been through the MTA's programs that are meant to grow contracting opportunity for all kinds of businesses, and we want to hear from them. But first, I want to invite the star of the day, Lourdes, to come up and say a few words. Lourdes.
Thank you, Jenna, for that warm welcome. Good morning. I think it's still morning to everyone. Really a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to be here and super excited to join the MTA as your new Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at such a crucial time in our economy and in our community. Mass transit's not just something that exists in New York City, it's the essential connector that brings so many worlds together, as Jana referenced. There's arguably no better time to join the MTA than right now. Transit has helped lead the region's recovery, all while embarking on one of the most ambitious capital programs that, once will be finished, will lead to a transit system that all New Yorkers deserved. My job is to make sure that we are doing that in an equitable way. With billions of dollars of contracts in the pipeline, this is a really great opportunity for small women and minority-owned businesses to get their foot in the door. My predecessors, Mike Garner and, of course, Tracy Mitchell, both of whom I had the pleasure of working with in my prior life, really have left me in a great and enviable position. The MTA is already a state-of-the-art leader when it comes to working with MWBE firms and small businesses, and have awarded, as Jano mentioned, millions of dollars in contracts every year. I'm honored and challenged to follow in Mike and Tracy's excellent examples and track records, and I'm ready to get to work. My experience as an economic development professional within government and the nonprofit sector really gave me a strong foundation to do this work, not just at the ground level, but at the 30,000-foot level. And I'm looking forward to applying my learned experiences to our efforts here. And as mentioned, I first became familiar with the MTA's successful programming and working with MWBEs and small businesses when I managed the New York State MWBE program. And I also, as mentioned, had the chance to serve as the Chief Diversity Officer for the state of New York, where I worked with the MTA and other state agencies and authorities to develop proactive initiatives and policies to increase diversity within the state workforce. On the more local level, I focus a significant part of my professional efforts furthering the development of my home borough of the Bronx, most recently serving as President and CEO of what is locally known and referred to as SOBRO, and again, as the first Latina to lead this anchor institution within our borough. It was not easy to leave SOBRO. It's an organization that's located within the same community that I was born and raised in. I first started working there in 1997 and then returned to it in 2019. So it is a very difficult difficult time, but really exciting time as well. It's bittersweet for me, not just leaving an organization that I've spent a lot of time and energy on, but coming to an organization that is continuing to serve my community, but just in a different capacity. In my time at Sobro, I had the opportunity to develop affordable and supportive housing, engage in planning efforts to rezone certain areas of the Bronx, of the South Bronx, and expanded its delivery of business services to small businesses, including MWBE. So I'm not going to forget my home borough when I come into this role. It is also an exciting time for the Bronx. If you take the 6th line, which is my old line from Castle Hill, you can see all the work that's taking place. In a few years, as we know, the East Bronx will no longer be a transit desert. Severely needed services for that portion of our community. And that doesn't even begin to touch the state of good repair work that's going to be happening over the next couple of years. So there's a lot of work that we are all facing. Really thrilled to see some familiar faces from the division that I will be working with in the audience today, and really excited to have the opportunity to meet some amazing new talent. I'm very much looking forward to working with all of you, looking forward, Jano, to your leadership in these efforts, and I thank you for your ongoing commitment to the MWBE work and diversity work that is just so crucial for our community. So we're looking forward to developing proactive and participatory ways to engage our community, and let's all get to work. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Everett Perry. My company is called Urban Ecospaces. While other states are trying to eliminate their diversity and equity inclusion programs, New York State is doubling down on developing companies like myself. So in my case, we started with 2 of us in the basement, and we've had as many as 119 employees between here and Puerto Rico since we went through the MTA program. The MTA program, effectively, we went in with a kindergarten education as a regular contract, and we came out with a PhD. And we've had more success. We've developed as a company. We know more now after going through the MTA training program, going through our first job, which wasn't easy, but we got through it. Then we don't know what we would have done without a program like this. And we appreciate every opportunity that was given to us. And there's not just me, there's plenty of other contractors here, out there, who begged their way in, and George Letterson, thank you, George. And, so I guess I'm just here to testify and say that we appreciate everything MT has done for us. We believe that the program is of good use. The idea of not sort of allowing companies like us to come in to build ourselves up, we just don't know what we would have done without this program. So again, Urban Ecospaces, my name is Everett Perry. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, and thank you all very much. Thank you.
Still good morning. So I bring a different perspective today to this really very special occasion. Thank you all for having me. My name is Renee Sachs, and I've been involved in the MTA Small Business Development Program, thank you, since 2009. Everybody was born. So that's over 14 years. And so in working with the program, one of the roles that my firm played was to help brand and develop some of the focuses of the program. So what I can say is that this mentorship program is unparalleled in the industry. It's unparalleled in the country. And we've worked over the last 14 years to bring that reputation to light, both at the federal level, at the state level, and of course throughout the city. But the MTA also did their job, and I think it's particularly significant that the MTA as a unit, and this is your leadership and the leadership that goes back, I'm going to forget who started, I forgot his name, but anyway, it goes back about 8 or 10 different leaders who actually mandated a top-down commitment to diversity and inclusion for the contractors that would come through this program. This was an experiment. It was a pilot, and it worked. And what it has done is awarded hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. I hear it's even more than that now. It built a pool of hundreds of, I don't know if we approach 1,000 graduates yet, but graduates who are now taking their position in the construction industry as leaders. And if you look at some of the associations, you'll see them there. They have really grown. They're taking on larger projects. Some of them are transitioning to union. They're changing the face of the construction industry. And the organization, the MTA, also aligned with all of the requirements of small businesses. So you're a mammoth organization, how would you define the MTA? Behemoth. However, you're flexible. Your payment procedures, your closeout procedures, everything became aligned to what small business needs, particularly the bundling of contracts. And you've also invested in a phenomenal team, and you're doing so with Lourdes. And so, Lourdes, the one thing that the MTA program did is it changed people's lives, even mine. As a consultant to the program, working behind the scenes, working on educational programs, working on outreach, it changed my life as a small certified company. But it also builds, it built communities, over 25,000, probably more today. Jobs have been created. It's an economic development force multiplier. And so, Lourdes, you've been changing lives for a long time, and now you're at the perfect spot to continue that mission. So congratulations. Thank you.
I think we're ready for some on-topic questions, and then, it's Minton time. Guide us through the on- and off-topic questions. Come stand with me, Lourdes. Come stand with me.
Back there from Bloomberg News.
Hi, Jano, you had mentioned that last year is, I believe you said 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
That the MTA signed on with MWBE businesses. Do you have a goal for this year, for 2023, and the amount that you want?
The goal is set. Credit to Governor Hochul, who has pushed us to do, and all state agencies to do 30%, 15 minority, 15 women-owned, and on top of the 30% of minority and women-owned, we are also urged to shoot for 6% of service-disabled veteran businesses. So we are at 32.5% of minority and women-owned businesses, and we want to make sure we keep hitting that level in excess of 30%. And that's allowed us to become, as I said, about a third of all New York State minority and women-owned business contracting.
What do you think are some of the challenges that MTA and maybe other New York State agencies face in trying to bring in more women and minority-owned businesses?
Well, listen, first of all, challenges, we have so many good contractors in New York, and up and down the size spectrum, up and down the, across the diversity spectrum. So number one is we got a lot of great contractors, and we have $55 billion of work, and we're going to work with the companies that are out there. So I am confident. There are always areas where we're trying to grow and improve. Number one is to expedite the certification process. There's a process the New York State government uses to certify minority and women-owned companies to be eligible and to count in this process. Number two is to get a greater diversity of companies in certain different trades, to make sure that when you go into the beginning of a job and you're doing the big civil work, the concrete and steel and the excavations, that there are minority and women-owned companies who can compete for that big work at the beginning of the job, as well as for the smaller subcontracts further on in the process. We want to grow also what Everett talked about, which is the small business mentoring program, where we don't just work with companies that are already equipped and have the experiences and get the certification. We actually participate in growing the companies by giving them a program that has some kind of instructional component and mentoring component, and also puts them in touch with jobs of a size that makes sense for them so they can grow up the scale of jobs. This is exactly what Mr. Perry just talked about. Is you start with a $2 million job, and then you do a $5 million job, and so on and so on. So those are the different areas that I've been passionate about, which is growing the pool, expediting certifications, and getting more contractors into different particular trades of jobs. But no matter what, we ain't going to come in below 30%. That's a passionate commitment at the MTA.
Evan Simcoe Bednarski back there, same area, New York Daily News. Evan.
Good morning, Jenno.
Hey.
Similar question. What is the minority and women-owned business portion of the money that's been set aside for the capital budget out of congestion pricing?
No. It's your point is the whole capital program. Whenever we do a project, we are doing 30%. So every project in that $15 billion will be subject to the 30% minimum requirement that we set. So you can do the math, but we're going to hit the numbers on those jobs that are within the that are funded out of the $15 billion that congestion pricing will allow us to raise.
Got it. So that's not just going forward. That's also the stuff that's already been allocated.
That's like I said. We've already been doing 32.5 billion and 32.5% last year, and now going. We're going to continue to comply with the 30% goal and exceed. We're not just going to meet it. We're going to continue to push to exceed it. Now, just for clarification, the state Governor Hochul's goal or requirement, the 30%, is in the state category. We also work with federally funded projects where you're using the DBE nomenclature. It's a different certification process, but it includes minority and women-owned companies as well. So that's where we get to the 1.4 billion includes both the state-funded projects as well as the federally funded projects.
Just closing out on topic, there's in the legend seats, Henry Rossoff right there. Next 11.
Paid extra, apparently. Lourdes, you mentioned the incredible opportunity with all this new capital spending that's already been mentioned to get more of these businesses, quote, foot in the door. Can you preview for us some of the initiatives you hope to bring the MTA is not currently doing, such as the mentorship program, that you would like to see the MTA doing?
No, I mean, look, I think you can't argue with the success of the MTA. 32%, even under the worst of is just an amazing accomplishment when you consider the proportionate amount of spending that the MTA is responsible for. I think the challenges that Jano spoke to related to MWBE businesses are not unique to MWBE businesses. Many small businesses have those issues, those very same issues and challenges. I think our role is to make sure that we are providing them access, that we are giving them opportunity, that we are identifying these firms, and to the extent that they need some assistance to get through that door, we do that. We can't get them up the stairs, but we can certainly get them through the door and make sure that they have the same equitable opportunity to participate in state contracting that any small business or any business in the state of New York really is entitled to. And that's why programs like these are so critical to be implemented and pursued throughout the state of New York. And the governor has demonstrated amazing leadership, and as Jano has referenced, under his leadership, the MTA has been doing a great job. So part of my role here is one to assess. I'm not looking to fix what's not broken, and see where there may be some opportunities to enhance and build upon the existing success of the MTA.
Particularly solving kind of the big civic jobs that you mentioned, Jano, at the beginning. It almost seems like that's something you really got to go out and get, because those companies don't pop up overnight. How do you address that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to rely on your partners, community level partners, other agencies, important critical stakeholders, business groups. A group like the Women's Builders Council that Renee leads has an incredible network of women-owned businesses, all of which are ready, willing, and able to perform on these contracts. Our job is to make sure that they know that we're here, that they know that we are here to support their services and their engagement, and then provide them whatever services we need to make sure that they succeed in our contracting.
But I'm going to add one thing, which is, one of the little challenges we face is at the federal level, they have a requirement, a cap on personal net worth for these business owners, which is pretty low. I think it's like, how much is it? 2 million? It's a 1.3? About $1.5 million, plus or minus. So we have raised that cap dramatically in New York. There's no reason why a successful minority or women-owned business should suddenly be excluded from all these programs once they start to succeed and grow. And God knows if you own a home and you paid off your mortgage for a little while in the state of New York, you might exceed that net worth cap. So we have been advocating at the federal level through our Federal Affairs Office in Washington, through the New York State Office in Washington, for them to raise the cap so we can, as you said, get some more big businesses owned by minorities and women to work on our big jobs. Okay.
All right, we have off topic now. That's
All right. Now, apologies in advance for all the zingers I'm going to get from these guys that have nothing to do with this stuff.
I cannot escape my full name, can I?
NJ Burkett. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Lieber. Mr. Lieber, you may be familiar with a video that has circulated in social media recently and in the mainstream media as well of a woman being beaten with a cane in the transit system. It's caused some to question why it is that the station agent didn't get out of the booth and intervene. What do people have a right to expect from a station agent in a situation like that if they're being victimized? And what are the protocols?
Okay, so just to be clear, the station agent did absolutely the right thing. She collected evidence by videoing what was going on, immediately contacted the Rail Control Center where there is a new NYPD officer stationed. So both contacting the Rail Control Center, but also the NYPD, and that actually brought a fast response from the NYPD, as you know, NJ. So the NYPD was notified immediately, and they arrived on the scene promptly. What happened after that is obviously under discussion, but that station agent did exactly what we want: collect evidence and bring professional law enforcement help to the scene. And as we bring our station agents, so let me just be clear, that station agent did the right thing. And everybody knows about this terrible episode. The attack was horrific. And New Yorkers are rightfully stunned and deeply offended by what they saw. But that station agent is responsible for the fact that we know about it in the detail that we do, and we compliment them. Now, are there other things? What else are we doing? We are training the station agents so they can be outside of the booths, and not to become law enforcement professionals, but to act at eyes and ears for exactly those types of situations. It's not going to always happen right in front of the booth. Sometimes it may be happening on a platform. Sometimes it may be happening in another area of the station. So we are training the station agents how to deal with conflict situations, God forbid, crime situations, and how to bring the police into the action as quickly as possible.
And also, sir, at the same time, you would not expect a conductor or a train operator to intervene as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what we do is that we we make sure that if there's something wrong going on, something dangerous, or even just a routine infraction, it is immediately brought to the attention of the people who are responsible for enforcement. That's their job, and that's the way the system works well. That's what we're doing.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much.
All done? Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.